Man, there are a lot of people right now, many of them probably voted for Trump, that are immediately finding out why that vote was a mistake. I don't think that anywhere even close to the maximum damage has already been done. But even right after Election Day, we saw that some companies, particularly American manufacturing companies, were bringing all of their factory workers together to explain to them how many of them were going to have their pay cut, many of them would have to be laid off, and that generally their job was just going to get a lot more insecure due to Trump's proposed tariff policy if he follows through on it. And that's just one of many policies that are going to damage the U.S. economy in a variety of ways, and a variety of people whose jobs are going to be affected severely by this administration. And one of those things are federal workers. Federal workers make up a pretty substantial amount of the population. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of them tended to vote or support Trump, just counterintuitively enough, because Trump and Elon have immediately gotten onto mass firing tons of federal workers. And I'm talking important jobs, probably one of the most severe being the FAA. In fact, Trump has fired numerous FAA employees whose job it was to oversee national security, such as monitoring the skies for oncoming intercontinental ballistic missiles that might have nukes on them. Yeah, guys, that's not a joke. Trump has fired a substantial amount of people whose job it is to notice and warn us when nukes are coming. Yeah. The federal firings have been widespread and severe. And as much as Donald Trump and his crowd tried to play it off as nothing serious, nothing insane, nothing too bad, or whatever it may be, the results are going to be devastating. And they know that. No matter how they try to play it off, they know that. And that's why many of these firings that have taken place, many of them out of the blue, just you wake up one morning, you've been fired via email, out of nowhere. Many of these firings, the Trump administration is realizing, oh shit, the country will literally collapse in like a month if we don't undo this. And they are walking it back and desperately trying to rehire the workers that they just fired. I'm not even joking. That is how haphazard they are behaving right now. That they are mass firing, realizing, oh shit, that was a big mistake, and then begging those people to come back once they realize they should not have fired those people. And that's where we are right now. Federal workers in Chicago, in fact, have been left confused by mass firings and sudden rehirings. I'm going to be honest. I know that the immediate, I know what they'll say. The immediate explanation will be, well, they rehired them, right? If they rehired them in the end, doesn't that mean that nothing all that bad happens and they recognized the problem and acknowledged it? That's not my concern. My concern is how the fuck do you trust these people when they're immediately making decisions, they're having to walk back, and the way they're walking them back is like, what if a bunch of these people decide they're not coming back? That they don't want to work for this federal government? These are like very, very specifically trained workers that have a background mostly in the military, or in some kind of like intelligence that means they've got decades or more of experience to be able to complete this task that is so important. Firing these people and begging them to come back is not a reliable strategy for not causing our country to crash and burn. That's just saying. Just my thoughts.
Earthshot approach targeting all kinds of different federal agencies. Tonight, some elected officials, bureaucrats, and union leaders say Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency, known as DOGE, is creating chaos and making mistakes with some serious safety concerns by firing thousands of federal workers. Tonight, the I-Team is hearing from two of those workers who've now been rehired.
America is better than this.
Still thawing from their bitter cold public fight in Federal Plaza Tuesday.
Are we going away? No!
Newly fired employees of the environmental
MAGA guy in chat named Mental Jiu-Jitsu said, the left lost all credibility after you said that a man could chop off his cock and become a woman. No one will ever take anything any of you say seriously ever again. Sorry, but this is how it is, shrug emoji. Listen. Stop the gaslighting, bro. We know you're just trolling. We know that your goal is to demoralize progressives and try to convince them not to talk about what's happening, not to reach people and inform them on what's going on. You can try, but it's not going to work. I deal with conservatives for a living. I know your strategies. You try to gaslight progressives into thinking they're stupid or insane for talking about what's happening. I know the drill.
Protection Agency refreshed their
I used to be conservative. Trust me, I know the drill. Yeah, you're okay, Mikey BME. You're chill. But the trolls that come into the chat are not just here to reasonably disagree.
email this morning to find this terse employment update: rescission of notification of termination.
Things are chaotic. There's been so much disruption.
Nicole Cantello is the president of the union representing about 1,000 federal employees in the Chicago area and still doesn't know how many employees were let go Friday without warning. Emails sent to the I-team by 2 fired and now rehired employees are identical, both sent at 11:19 a.m. Wednesday that read, "This is to provide notification that the agency is rescinding your termination. You are not being removed from EPA or from federal service at this time."
Like, it's wild to me that, like, we see this shit happen in the gaming industry. Like, Blizzard or Riot does this shit, where it's like, welcome to work. If you have a blue card, if you pick up a blue card when you walk into the building from the security guard, go into this door. If you get a red card from the security guard when you get into the building, go through that door. And then if you go through whichever door you go through, you either come into a room where they tell you, congratulations, you survived, and you still work here, or you go into the room where they inform you you've been fired, and that will be all. Please leave the premises immediately. Who remembers when Blizzard did that? Like 12 times? All of gamers, including the chuds, were pissed about it. They pull this shit, arguably even more ridiculous and awful than that, in our federal government. And it's like, well, listen, okay? Listen. They were DEI hires. Or something like that. I don't know.
When we met Bridget Lynch and Nyla McCraney Tuesday, both had been fired after little more than a month at the EPA.
Oh, they're both women. Yeah, obviously. Okay, yeah, obviously the response will be they were just DEI hires. Yeah, there you go. That's all they need.
Working hard over the past month to learn the statutes of the Safe Drinking Water Act so that I can, be an excellent worker here.
If there's no one working on environmental health, all of America will be unsafe.
The boomerang employment status at the hands of Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency is underway at multiple federal agencies. This afternoon, Illinois Senator Tammy Duckworth said employees who were working for the veteran...
That study that we did, that we read, the report from the National Institute of Health, if I'm not mistaken, National Institute of Health. It was a study on brain matter development in conservatives compared to liberals, and we went over how liberals have more brain matter growth in certain parts of the brain than compared to conservatives who have more brain matter growth or gray matter growth in different parts of their brain. And these areas control different fundamental functions. One of the areas in which liberals have more gray matter is the same center that processes like facial features and what those like faces someone might make indicate about them, like the personality that you can glean from someone's face. And it just seems like for a lot of conservatives, they see someone like Elon or someone like Trump, and they don't see anything about their faces or like how they look that immediately puts them off. But for progressives, you can almost look at these guys and you know what I mean? Like, look at Elon's face. There's some, like, only like a person like Elon would make a face like what he's making here. Only a person like Trump would make the faces that Trump makes. Most of it referring to the smugness that they constantly carry, right? There's something about that I almost feel like you just... Whether or not you get a bad feeling enough from these guys to be skeptical is almost a cognitive skill that many seem to lack. Because, like, who saw this guy and was like, man, what a trustworthy looking face?
Musk's Department of Government Efficiency is underway at multiple federal agencies. This afternoon, Illinois Senator Tammy Duckworth said employees who were working for the Veteran Crisis Line were fired.
It sounds like, thankfully, at least some of these employees will be rehired as of this morning.
And employees working on the rapidly spreading bird flu were also abruptly fired over the weekend. Tonight, the U.S. Department of Agriculture acknowledges those are public safety positions, telling the I-Team we are working to swiftly rectify the situation and rescind those letters. Researchers say with a spreading virus, each day is precious work.
It's kind of like watching a pot of hot water. It's when you look.
The fun thing is, though, that Donald Trump is actively destroying the agencies that need to do their jobs to recover America from the problems it's dealing with right now, such as the egg prices. They've tried to, make excuses for how this is not Trump's fault, that, Trump promised... I had the one word-for-word quote from Trump. On day one, the eggs will be affordable. You know, now we're a month in and eggs are at an all-time high in terms of their prices. They've tried to write that off as Biden's fault as best they can. But the fact is, if you're going to deal with a massive, outbreak of bird flu among the American chicken population, you can't mass fire and defund the agencies whose job it is to solve that problem if you don't want the egg prices to keep going up, or in some areas for eggs to just not be available, which is definitely pissing people off. There's only so long that people are going to look the other way with these things. They only did it for so long with Biden. They'll only do it for so long with Trump.
Look away when there's the explosion and it boils, right? So you have to be constantly watching it.
Many, but not all, of the federal workers caught up in these mass firings have been probationary employees. They are people within the first 2 years of the job. According to the most recent data from the Office of Personnel Management, there are more than 220,000 federal workers on the government payroll who've been working for the government for less than a year. And because this is all happening so quickly, government and agencies really don't have any clear idea of how many people are caught up in it. A lot of confusion.
Watch breaking news on YouTube.
Well, damn. This is a pretty scary situation. Let me see if I can find the, yeah, here it is. I was watching this earlier today. Fired FAA employee who is working on missile defense says Americans should be scared. This is literally from today.
We're hearing tonight a warning from one of the several hundred FAA employees who was just fired. I'm, quote, I'm scared to death, and the American public should be scared too, is what we're hearing from Charlie Statlander, who says he was working on an urgent FAA defense program in Hawaii to detect incoming cruise missiles. He thought his job would be spared because it focused on national security. But on Friday, along with hundreds of other FAA probationary employees, he was fired, and Charlie joins me now. And thank you for being here. It's great to have you. Because obviously this warning, you say that the American public should be scared by your firing and the hundreds of your FAA colleagues as well. Why is that?
Hey, Caitlin, thank you so much for having me on tonight. And, thank you for giving me the platform to tell my story. I wish I was here under different circumstances, but alas, here we are. So I do think the American public does need to be concerned about not only my firing, but also the firing of so many public safety, national security professionals at the FAA and, within the department.
Do I think that America is going to get struck by missiles or anything? No, I hope not. Though I will say if Trump plans to engage in a violent takeover of Greenland from Denmark, or God forbid to invade Canada and force it to become the 51st state, then I will say that would be a situation where the idea of our FAA being undermanned in its ability to monitor our skies, to protect American cities and American soil from being struck, that is definitely a concern. We as Americans live in a pretty high level of security that our skies are safe and protected. And because of that, at least insofar as the sky, you don't have it. You're never sitting in your home worried you're going to get airstriked by terrorists, right? That's not something you're really worried about. Most people aren't constantly worried that any second they're going to get vaporized by a nuke hitting their city. And a lot of that is because, besides 9/11, which was so big of a deal because it's the one exception, like, that doesn't happen. We are very used to that level of safety, and right now we are less safe in that respect than we've been in a really long time. And that, a lot of Americans, or many Americans, maybe not even most, but many Americans not recognizing that, is actually even scarier than the idea of us getting, like, struck on our soil almost, you know?
Department of Transportation, but, writ large also throughout the federal government. And I gave that quote about being scared to death because, well, I can't talk about the specifics of the project I worked on and what all I was doing. What I can tell you is that the FAA National Defense Program that I was a part of and was incredibly proud to work for the mission, to accomplish the mission of, has an incredibly important national security role. And I was working on incredibly important national security work. And by being summarily fired without any warning, actually while I was in the process of working, I think that is detrimental to national security.
You were at work when you got fired?
I had actually just returned from a work trip, a briefing at one of our Air Force bases, and I was working late into the night, which again is, I think, further evidence. I'm just one of hundreds of thousands of federal employees who work way more than 40 hours a week. And it goes to show that the rumors that are being spread by the administration and DOJ that federal workers are just leeches on the government are incorrect. But with that said, I had just returned home from a briefing, a work trip. I had another one.
One thing worth keeping in mind is federal workers are workers, you know? Donald Trump ran on bringing jobs to America, improving the life of the average American, and all he's doing right now is firing shitloads of Americans, but starting with the ones that work in federal government, which most Americans don't work in federal government, to be fair, and most Americans don't have a very positive view of the federal government right now, a big reason why Trump won this election. But the question is, like, when these firings and the effects of them start to affect the average American, that's going to be a big concern. I mean, it is even now. A lot of these federal workers that are getting fired, such as this man on screen, are ex-military. That's why they're qualified for these jobs. They're ex-military. All these pilots, a lot of these FAA employees, ex-military, ex-Air Force. A lot of, or not, would you say ex-Air Force or just Air Force? They're Air Force. And that is a big deal. These are veterans or people who have served. A lot of them are. And people who've served in the military, they either tend to lean really far left or, more commonly, they tend to support Trump. And so he's alienating a lot of people who just sort of logically are likely to disproportionately have voted for him this time around. And now, like, 1 month in, he's personally fired them, basically. That does not bode well for Trump's getting their vote again, you know? And we're just 1 month in, to be clear. 1 month in, and this is how it's gone. Let's see how much crazier it can get.
Scheduled actually for today, and I was working late into the night after I had returned home to get my notes and my thoughts down so that I could prepare to share with my boss and other folks in my branch before I actually went to my briefing this week.
Well, and Charlie, I just wonder what you say about this, given you talk about this defense radar system that you were working on. I know you can't go into the details of that, but the White House defended these cuts by saying no air traffic controllers nor any professionals who perform safety critical functions were terminated. Is that accurate from what you know?
So again, I was in the FAA National Defense Program, so I don't really have any knowledge on the air traffic controller side of that. But I can tell you that the second part of that regarding public safety or critical public safety, from my perspective and the work I was doing, is a flat out false statement.
Charlie Statlander, I know that this obviously came as a shock to you. Thank you for coming on and sharing your experience. It's good to hear from someone who actually went through this instead of just looking at the numbers, to actually hear from.
It's crazy to see all the people who accuse the government of lying to them when Trump wasn't in charge. All of a sudden, it's like the most blatant lying from the government imaginable. Like, the evidence is basically just sitting right there in the open. And all the conspiracy theory bros, all the, like, I don't trust the government bros, are now the biggest bootlickers. Like, God bless our American federal government. Well, not the federal government, just Trump, just the president. and his administration, the people who support the president. It's like all of a sudden the government and every politician is a crook, and then the crookiest politician comes along and it's like, well, listen, all right, this is what we needed. This is what we wanted.
A person who was affected by this. Thank you for sharing that with me tonight.
Hey, thank you so much, Caitlin.
The U.S. Department of Agriculture is now working to rescind termination letters sent to employees working on bird flu response. Those workers were among the scores of firings at multiple federal agencies, including the U.S. Forest Service. Joining us now is Amanda Mae Downey. Amanda, thank you for coming on. So you worked for the Forest Service. Did you ever think you'd be in this position?
I think that there are some national parks that range in like, oh, fuck, there was a really good short by... Is his name? I think it's Mini Minuteman. Oh my god, dude. He's kind of switching from covering like, well, he still does it, but his main thing is covering like crazy conspiracy theorists that believe that like Nephilim and giants and Bigfoot and aliens built the pyramids, and he debunks mostly archaeological conspiracy theories, but he also does shorts. And one of his and most of his shorts and some of his more recent videos have been getting into politics. And he released a YouTube short yesterday or today that does a really good job of talking about one of the worst cases of federal firings we've seen happen.
You hate national parks and going outside as much as I do? Well, I have great news for you. They just laid off 4,400 National Forest and Park Service employees. If there's one thing I just hate about America, it's how beautiful it is. Can you believe that they are wasting taxpayer dollars taking care of this? Like, what even is that thing? Is that increasing shareholder profits? I don't
That right there is a future Walmart parking lot, I tell you what.
I think so. I see families enjoying the pristine beauty of our amazing country, and all I can think is, get the fuck back to work. Now, the woke media will tell you that this is not a political issue, literally at all, and that almost every single American is in unanimous agreement that the National Park Service is a good thing. Okay, fine.
That poll was taken before Trump went after the National Park Service, though. You gotta do a poll after Trump did it, because you'll see those results flip pretty hard. You know, you're going to see like 40% more people. It's going to be like 47 unfavorable once Trump has, you know, indicated the National Park Service as an enemy. Because you got to keep in mind, the United Postal Service used to be the top before Trump decided it was one of the worst things ever and tried to shut it down in his last term. He didn't like the mail-in ballots thing. He wanted to stop mail-in ballots from being an option, so he tried to shut down the U.S. Postal Service in his last term towards the end, right before the election, remember?
We'll leave a couple of them. Want to guess how many full-time employees we have left managing 1 million acres of land in Yellowstone and Bozeman? 3 of them. Remember, guys, by cutting these jobs, the money is going right...
Fuck Yellowstone. Millions of people, what is it, a year maybe, come to America to see Yellowstone National Park and the Grand Canyon and all that? Fuck that shit. 3 people now manage Yellowstone National Park. Poachers, come kill all the animals. Yeah, that's right. 3. That's right. That's right. Don't worry, guys. According to Trump supporters, the left has lost its credibility, all right? None of this matters. No one will ever listen to us again because we supported trans people. This is our punishment.
Bros,
according to the Trump supporter in chat earlier. They really are just trolling. I'm curious what the comments are. I am one of those Forest Service employees that was laid off. The Southern Region Timber Strike Team provided about 25% of the productivity for the entire Forest Service last year, so to suddenly be fired for the imaginary poor performance while in the middle of a work assignment was an insult. My best friend is a park ranger and a geologist for Yosemite National Park, so here are some things that aren't well known to the public. A good number of those 4,400 people are not only jobless, but are also homeless as a requirement to live in park housing is to be employed by the National Park Service. Oh, so they were living in park housing, and so losing their jobs has also made them homeless. To be fair, remember what Asmongold said. Let me see if I can find the clip. Remember. Asmongold... Let me see if I can find the clip. Oh, if I could find this quickly. If I could find this quickly. It would be so nice. I would be so happy if I could find it quickly. Am I gonna have to bring it up as a clip? Hold on. Asmongold. Conspiracy. This used to be a crazy conspiracy theory. Here it is.
So yeah, no, I hope that's what.
Okay. Here's Asmongold's reaction to federal employees getting fired.
Go do Uber Eats. Go work at McDonald's. Put the fries in the bag. Like, thank God. Get the fuck out of here. What a waste of everybody's fucking money. What a complete waste of literally billions of dollars, bro. Billions of dollars wasted on these retards. You're wrong, especially about her. If you're in charge of this shit and you're okaying different types of advocacy programs for social issues across the world, you are using my tax money in a way that I will vote against. That's really just that simple. So you might not like that. You might think, oh, well, that's mean to say, but fuck that. Fuck that. I don't care. You're right. You are right, especially about her. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Asmon and his mom both lived off of welfare until he became a millionaire streamer. Yes.
She's the one in charge. Yeah, exactly. And I love how a millionaire is for Trump. You think I give a fuck about that? I don't care.
Yeah, of course not. No, of course not. Of course, he as he goes on to say, he actually hopes Trump makes him pay more in taxes. Very easy thing to say when Trump runs on a platform of lowering your taxes, to be able to just say, I hope he raises my taxes, because he never will, and he ran on a platform of not doing that. So very easy thing to just say, as an argument against the very reasonable call out of, hey, the millionaire supports Trump, and all of you working class people don't question why the millionaire supports the administration of billionaires. You know, okay.
Would be on the chopping block.
So as a probationary employee, there's always that risk, right? But I worked hard and I did my job, and I did not think that this would be something that would happen to someone who goes in under these conditions and proves themselves and works really hard. And that's been a real gut punch for me.
I imagine it has been. And from what I read, you know, you have a family that you're trying to support. Tell us about the process of termination, what that was like for you. Are you still getting paid? When does your pay end?
Yeah, so I received a text message from my supervisor asking if I had a minute to talk. I was actually busy helping my daughter move unexpectedly in Grand Rapids from her college apartment. And then he called and left a voicemail. I was still busy. I missed it. I did call him back. He said that I needed to come in and speak to him before, I believe it was close of business on Monday, that we had to wrap it up over the weekend. And so as directed by my union, I sent a message just clarifying that I was going to receive premium pay as a callback to be called in on a holiday. He did respond and confirm that I would be. And so then I went in on Monday to receive my termination.
Everyone is a Republican for like 10 seconds during tax season, to be fair. We all, come on, for like 10 seconds, you know, when it all comes together and you're just like, fuck. You know, you're a Republican for like 10 seconds. Let's be real. We all are. For like 10 seconds. And then you're like, but I like roads.
Letter from OPM, which I believe you guys have a copy of, and was able to pack up my stuff. I had to turn over my accountable property to another employee. I was there for about 3 hours, I think.
So we're showing it here on the screen. You say received and accepted under duress. Why was it important to you to add that line?
It was really important to me because there are so many policies under concern that we don't believe are being followed as employees, and we are, looking to our union for guidance on those things. And the possibility that it sounds like with this being such a sheer volume of employees that this is a riff.
Ooh, because Elon Musk has referred to workers' unions as one of the most evil things ever conceived. How do you think, the majority of MAGA responds when they ban unions? Elon's not going to allow unions to continue to exist for much longer. It's actively hurting his business for them to exist. So, all these Trump supporters in the Rust Belt that are part of, auto manufacturers unions, all these dock workers who really hated Biden, by the way. The dock workers in that dock worker union hardcore voted against Biden and Kamala. A lot of them voted for Trump or didn't vote at all. And so that was like one of the few unions that didn't like Biden because Biden didn't do enough for them. And so they didn't back Trump. A lot of them backed Trump instead of Biden. Their union is about to get dissolved legally. There's going to be a lot of fucking around and finding out in the future. Like, a lot of Trump supporters relied on union work and are part of like a labor union. And they're about to lose so much leverage, rights, and just like general accountability for their employer that they become so accustomed to. And they're gonna be like, wait a second, I didn't know this was what I was voting for. Once again, they're gonna realize that, yes, all these bad things Trump wants to do, it includes you. You are not the exception. You're not special.
And there are policies that have to be followed if we are under a RIF. And you can't just come in and sweep out all the worker bees because that's the easiest thing to do.
So, and going back, and I apologize if I missed this, but I'm just curious, what is the package like for you? Are you given pay through a certain time period? Is your pay cut off immediately? I just want to better understand that.
Yeah, so I apologize. I was so focused on the prior question. Okay. So there was a lot of concern over the weekend. So FEMI, the national account from where all of our paychecks come from, we were aware there was going to be some maintenance as government purchase card holders, but there was never any mention about our paychecks. And all of our paychecks, most of us, it gets deposited on, Friday, Saturday, even Sunday, and it was pending all weekend. Some people said it showed up and then disappeared. I will say that my check did deposit and finalize today, so I am glad for that. I should have one more paycheck coming to me from this last week for the pay period, and I have been told I will receive my annual leave, and if I had any credit hours built up, I would receive that. We do not receive our sick time that we have reserved.
So you worked with the Forest Service, which manages and maintains public forests and grasslands and is critical in wildlife protection. What is your biggest concern now that so many of the agency's workers are gone? What do you think the impact will be? Do you think people will feel this?
Definitely. I think it's...
Keep in mind, Trump supporters generally are a lot of hunters, people who like to camp, hunt, hike, and enjoy outdoor activities in general. A lot of them are Trump supporters and Republicans. A lot of them are MAGA. And, let's say right now you're really into hunting deer. Right now, you don't have much to worry about. There are way too many deer. Like, deer are way closer to being overpopulated than they are to being underpopulated, and a problem for hunters, right? Now, we're not going to see any regulations to manage the amount of this or that you can kill, or how many people can get a license to do this or hunt that, what seasons you can hunt this or that, what size you can fish up this or that. Very quickly, we are going to see the consequences of deregulation. And when everything is deregulated and everyone gets to have all the fun they want, very quickly, no one gets to have any more fun. People are going to experience the consequences of these deregulations. There's so many different angles at which people think that they are the exception to the warnings of what a Trump presidency would mean. Even if they were not in favor of Trump, they might think things are not going to be as bad as they're going to get. But there's so many angles at which so many different people's lives, their hobbies, their work, their everything is going to be impacted.
It's going to be a tremendous impact. First it's going to hit us and our families and our amazing coworkers, and that's going to impact our communities. It's going to have a ripple effect. Eventually, you will see that our natural resources and our beautiful public lands will not have the same standard of care, and that's going to affect tourism and our economy. I have lived and worked and played in this community my entire life and chose to stay here, and I genuinely believe in that. And to see the impact that this is going to have, knowing that my community depends so strongly on our tourism, is just heartbreaking.
Just to be clear, I know we have to go, but did you get any reviews that you weren't performing the way that you should have been or anything like that?
I received a merit-based pay increase this fall, which if you're an unsatisfactory employee, you would not receive that.
Amanda Mae Downey.
That's a really good answer. Did you ever get written up or like any reviews that said you weren't meeting performance standards? I actually just got a pay increase for my hard work and good performance, actually, 1 month ago. Yeah. Like, that's such a good response to just really hammer home how unwarranted these firings were. But you know what? I like how she emphasized merit-based, but regardless, no, the right will just claim you were a DEI hire. Let's see. Oh, the top comment is pretty on the money, honestly. Don't worry, Trump's administration will be quick to slander this young man and claim he was a secret Biden plant left over from the Obama DEI administration, who fired him first 12 years ago. It was a Friday and it was cold because someone told Trump the people were running IP to him, shivering, saying, "Sir, it's terrible." I don't know what the rest of this comment is, but the start of it was pretty good. His job title was replaced by computers. Another waste. Okay, here we go. His job title was replaced by computers. Hilariously, this is the 5th explanation I've heard from a Trump supporter on why this isn't a big deal. I've heard he was probably replaced with another worker. It was a low-skill job. They could easily hire someone else. No, it's not. Literal Air Force background, by the way, you need to have to do this job. And now I've heard that it's being done by computers. I have a feeling the fact the explanation to explain this away and sanity wash this, the fact that everyone I hear explain it away is giving a different reason entirely, might go to show that they are just, in real time, these people are making up their own excuses for why this isn't a big deal. Like, how far gone do you have to be where, you've got your own process set up to explain away bad shit Trump does without even needing to be propagandized to anymore? How far gone are you at that point? I genuinely need to know. Anyway, that said, if y'all found this segment entertaining, educational, or even enjoyable, then perhaps leave a like and a comment. It really does help a lot. Whether you're watching live or whenever you're watching one of my new uploads in the channel, it is the best way to support me as it's totally free, and it actually forces YouTube to push my content further in the algorithm, getting it out to more people, so it really means a lot. You can also subscribe and ring the bell icon to turn on all notifications if you haven't done so already, so that YouTube actually tells you when I go live or upload a new video in the future, because if you don't, trust me, they won't. And of course, if you want to support me directly, help me keep the lights on and a roof above my head here at the Xander Hall studio, then you can always donate, subscribe, or gift a sub on my website, xanderhall.com/live, or you can support me through YouTube, Twitch, Streamlabs, Stream Elements, Patreon, or you can buy some Xander Hall merch through the Streamlabs link down below in the description. Regardless of how you support the channel, though, thank you so much for watching as always, and as always, I hope you have a good one.